from the day after the Prime Minister spoke on August 15th about startup, we've been really engaging with all the ministries concerned to see how best they can get greater synergy in putting up this meet, this conversation to be held with all the startups, and recognizing the fact that the ecosystem has already been created. Wanted to understand how best the government can go about being just a facilitator, not to do anything that which is going to hurt which has already been created as an ecosystem. Not to typically come down as a government, but be there, but only to facilitate and make sure startups come to India, which they have started doing, stay in India, scale up, and not just confine. Again, I'm not suggesting that they're confined, but not just confined to tech-based industries. So you're looking up to a scheme of things which has already gained traction, and we as government will have to see how best we can remove the clutter in such a way that your core business interests are the ones in which you're going to focus, rather than think about what compliance will have to be attended to, the time that you have to spend in keeping papers, and the time you're going to have to answer regulators or others who come to ask questions of you. We recognize India's change. The number of young people who are looking for government jobs is fast coming down because they aren't in. The number of people who would rather set up their own and provide a few more, some employment, is growing, and which is the typical Indian entrepreneurship which has to be seen at the best of things. But that entrepreneurship is no longer being condemned in the name of Jugaad, because it isn't. It isn't Jugaad. Indians have come back to establish for themselves and to prove for themselves that they have something to contribute. Keeping in mind the end consumer. The consumer is just not who consumes or uses those day-to-day goods, but you're looking at science and technology, you're looking at that which can be used by our various frontier technology using firms and companies. So we are very clear, and we have brought on board all the ministries, engaged with all of them, and made sure that we are speaking the same way, understanding the issues similarly, and recognizing you for what you are and for the toil that you've done over the years. It may not be out of place here for me to recall the candid conversation you had with the Honorable President of India yesterday. I've seen the reports, and I'm glad the President has spoken about the critical role that startups are starting to play in this country. We are sure that our interventions or our engagements with you are more to understand the situation. I'm glad to see a big team of prestigious startups from and leaders of startups from Silicon Valley coming here today to participate in today's day of deliberations. You will, I'm sure, guide us in making things easy for the startups in India. I'm glad, and I'm sure the data is already with you. In the last 1 year, there's been a 50% increase in financing of startups in India. And there are about 4,500 or slightly more than that startups which have found angel investors or venture capitalists who have come forward to fund them. So when government and the finance minister, I'm sure, will elaborate on this, when the government is talking of funds or fund, it is not as if we think that this is the fund which is going to help startups. We recognize this will be one among the seven. And many of them have already started funding you. We need to understand their concerns about how their investments will have to be productive and their investments will have to be meaningful without much of an imposition from the government. And similarly, I understand starting a startup is as much important as if somebody wants to exit from it. The government is working to make the exit also. You know, the bankruptcy code is already in the parliament. The finance minister is working very hard at it. I'm sure with these, we will be doing the right things for the startups to be here and not to look at having a domicile somewhere else. We are looking forward to having greater engagement with you. I'm equally eager to hear the finance minister. With these few words, I welcome all of you all today for this day-long gathering, and eventually, of course, in the evening, the Prime Minister will be here to speak to us elaborately on what his ideas for startups in India is. Thank you very much. I appreciate your participation.
यूएस में स्टार्टअप की दिशा में भारतीय लोगों ने बहुत कुछ काम किया है। तो मैं हिंदुस्तान से 40 ऐसे स्टार्टअप के लोगों को लेके गया था और वहां पर एक जॉइंट इवेंट किया था। इतना इंस्पायरिंग था, मैं काफी देर हर चीज को देखा था। भारत में भी हम स्टार्टअप फेस्ट को परंपरागत रूप से खड़ा करना चाहते हैं। सरकार उसमें जितना भी मदद कर सकती है वो करेगी, ताकि हमारे